All right. We are live on YouTube.
Well, hello, everybody.
Great to see you again, Ray.
Hey, good to see you.
Great to see everybody out there on YouTube. I can't really see you. I'm not like peering through the camera or anything. But we're so excited to be here. Each and every week we go over the credit banking strategy. And we just spent the last 4 weeks just completing the whole saga. Right. And now we're launching off again. But each time we go through it, it's nuanced a little bit more and we cover a little bit more. And, and it takes repetition to really learn all of these strategies. So I want to give a big shout out to all those who are actually in the webinar, because when you're in the webinar, man, you get to not only get the training on the credit banking strategy, but you get to be here for the case study at the end, which is super exciting. Now I want a big shout out to Kiona, Michael, Peter, Reginald, Rofi, and Tim. Man, you guys are going to be the backbone that help us when we do the mastermind, get through and brainstorm and figure out how to really push through and solve these credit banking challenges. But we're so happy for all of you out there on YouTube as well, a chance to work with us and learn and really apply the strategy. So Ray, would you read through our disclaimer that everybody needs to know?
All right. So in this setting, we are not licensed attorneys, accountant, financial advisors, broker, or other licensed individuals. Even if we have those licenses, we're not acting with those licenses in this capacity. Therefore, we will not discuss.
All right. Thank you, Ray. The point is, folks, do your own due diligence. Okay. We are not licensed professionals. We are giving you our opinions, and it's up to you to seek competent legal professionals to make sure that these strategies will work for you. My name is Joseph Smith. I'm one of the wise guys in ties. I'm not wearing a tie or a coat today because it is hot. We're here in Arizona. And this is my business partner, Mr. Ray Fleming, also known as the property guy.
Good evening, everybody.
All right, folks, our business, Wise Guys in Ties, is designed to help you start, build, and grow a business. We also help people with their personal finances learn how to use creative financial strategies to eliminate debt quickly. And so if you are seeking any of those services, we would love to have you contact us, reach out to us, and see how we can help you. All right, so let's jump into it. What is credit banking? Because, we get new people on every week. This is growing. What a blessing.
And today is so super exciting because it's starting fresh. And so if this is your very first time being here, this is the best time to, jump in. I mean, actually, any time is a good time to jump in. If you've been here before and maybe you're missing a couple of pieces, now's the time to really plug in for the next 4-week period to make sure you get all those little aspects.
Couldn't have said it better myself. All right. I define credit banking as this. Credit banking utilizes your budget surplus and revolving lines of credit to transfer highly expensive amortized loan interest into a simpler and less expensive repayment. This radically decreases the total number of loan payments, which in turn reduces the total amount of interest paid, resulting in aggressively paying down of the principal loan balance in about 1/3 the time. Pretty cool, huh?
Absolutely.
So why credit banking? Well, we talked about this many times. Credit banking is rapid debt reduction. It increases your monthly cash flow. It increases your cash availability. It creates financial independence. Mm-hmm. It maximizes your real estate returns if you're in real estate, right? And it reduces stress and burns calories. It really does. I mean, for those who want to get more things done, like if you set your goal to lose weight,
there you go,
and get out of debt.
Now you have time
do credit banking, and you can do both at the same time.
Now you can do it.
And you become more attractive. I say this so many times. When you have more money in your bank account, my wife finds me much more attractive when the bills are getting paid and there's more money in the bank account. So, and if you're not married, try it. Try eliminating all your debt and just see how they will flock to you. So why doesn't everybody do this? I mean, okay, credit banking, why haven't I heard of it? Why aren't other people doing it? Well, it comes down to this. People don't know about it. Many banks don't want you to do it. The mainstream media doesn't understand it. Financial advisors have never heard of it. Dave Ramsey doesn't teach it. Lou Dobbs didn't do a news report about it. Mom and dad didn't do it. Your broke cousin said not to. Bottom line is that people fear it. People fear what they don't know.
That's right.
And so when you don't understand it, then it must obviously be bad. So what does it take to do this? Well, it's a mindset. You've got to have credit banking as a mindset. So There's an employee mindset, a scarcity mentality, which is people who use their cash as their currency. When you do that, you're living on a cash basis mentality. And that means that you have a certain pie, right? And this is all my money for the month. And I've got to cut out this piece of pie for this payment and this piece of pie for that payment. And hopefully I don't run out of money before the end of the month. But unfortunately, because it's a zero-sum game in this, with this mindset, if there is something where I don't have enough money, I've got to take money from somewhere else to pay something else. And so it's this constant, have you ever seen any of those talent shows where there's this guy on stage and he's got these poles and he's spinning plates
Oh yes,
on these
yes,
poles?
yes.
That's what living in this employee mindset is like, because you got to pay this bill, oh, I got to run back over here and make another payment, I got to make another payment, and then you're just and then it begins to, but then you start adding more payments and more things, and before you know it, everything comes crashing down on you. So what can we contrast that to? The wealthy mindset is an abundance mindset. So wealthy folks leverage their currency and use their cash to accelerate and grow their wealth creation. This is so critical because if you use your own money to pay your own bills, then you're losing 100% of your buying power each and every month. But when you use somebody else's money to pay your bills and you only pay them a small little fee to rent their money, you keep more of your liquidity on hand. So what do you need to get started? Well, 3 simple ingredients. You need debt. You need cash flow, positive monthly cash flow, a budget surplus, and a line of credit. Now, this strategy was initially invented or conceived of in Australia. Mm-hmm. And so it works with a line of credit, and it's meant to, like a large line of credit, like a home equity line of credit, a personal line of credit. However, it can be used with credit cards if you understand the limitations of credit cards. So we'll look at that as well. So folks, we've been talking, this whole theme, by the way, you're seeing all these, this picture, why are we doing it? We use an Indiana Jones kind of theme, you know, the Paramount movie, Indiana Jones, starring Harrison Ford, because that's what we are. We are on this journey. We're on this expedition. We're looking for the lost American dream. And what is that American dream?
Financial freedom.
It is, but that could really be different for a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
You know, in this one scene right here, it's pretty crazy. I've talked about it a lot of times. I mean, if you've seen this movie where he goes in and he's trying to get this idol, like the idol represents the your American dream, your financial freedom. I mean, he's doing everything right. He's gotten past the booby traps and the spiders and the bottomless pit, you know, and the all of these things. And he's carefully stepped, and he's even got this little weight that he's going to use a counterweight to get this little thing. I mean, he is like done all his homework. I mean, think about how that translates into real life, though. You go to school, you get good grades, so you can go to college and get a degree, so you can get a job, right? And then you get your job so that you can get a home and a car or a couple of cars. You get a wife, kids. I mean, you're living the American dream. You're putting money away for your retirement. You go on vacations, 2-week vacations that your job lets you go on. You're saving up for your kids' college fund. I mean, everything seems like you're doing it the right way. This is the way you were told to do it. But somewhere along the way, they didn't tell you that, well, your college tuition's over $100,000. Your spouse's college tuition's over $100,000. Your house is over $250,000. Your cars are $50,000, right? And then you've got all your cumulative credit card debt, $15,000, $20,000 on top of that. You add that all up, you're over $500,000 in debt. Now, as a single, you're bringing in net $60,000 a year, college educated, right? We're talking about both you and your spouse together combined would be bringing in $80,000 to $100,000, right? That's what the stats say. And then you have to pay all your bills. Where is there any money to actually get out of debt?
That's the trouble.
That's the trap.
Yep.
And so in this scene, in this movie, he does everything right, but the whole temple comes crashing down on him. I mean, he gets chased by the natives. I mean, it's just all craziness goes on. And it's a fun movie to watch, but it's so frustrating when that happens in real life, when you do everything right, but everything goes wrong.
I have definitely been there many times.
So financial freedom, if you could be totally free, right, you could retire and only work and do what you want to. But a lot of people, one of the reasons why they work is for retirement, but there's a lot of confusion. How much do you need to actually retire? What do you need? How much money do you need to be financially free? Well, if you look here, this is a simple chart. We've highlighted year 20 because most people, when they retire, they plan for 20 years in retirement. But hey, you want to retire early? Then look further down on the list, right? But look at this. If you had $3,000 worth of expenses and you wanted that taken care of, you need to have over $1 million in an interest-bearing account that you could pull money out of. You would be depleting that, by the way, but there would be enough money in there for you to live 20 years at $3,000. Now, how many people do you think actually have $1 million?
I actually don't think that many right now. I mean, in the big reality of how many people are approaching the retirement age or in retirement.
I'm telling you, this is what scares a lot of people. And when you're young, you're not even thinking about this. But as you start getting up there, you start getting, a little salt and pepper in the hair, right? Then all of a sudden you're thinking, got a little snow on top. It's time for me to start thinking about how things are going to work out. And then you feel like, well, I'm woefully behind where I need to be, where I want to be. And then panic,
Right.
ensues.
Because I know statistically, people really start to focus on saving around 50, 55. But then I also see different things at age 65. It was over 50% of Americans didn't have more than $25,000 to their name. That's crazy.
True. Oh, hey, we had a question from Latoya. She said, trying banking with credit banking with a credit card is not the best way. Is this what you're saying? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it was designed for using a line of credit, because a line of credit is a lot more stable than a credit card. Credit cards, they can change the terms on you every month. But as long as you have good credit card management skills and you know what you're doing with your cards and you understand what your terms are, then yes, you can use it with a credit card. But if you go in and you don't know how your credit card works, you don't know what your terms are, you don't understand utilization, you don't understand how your inquiries and the mix of accounts, you don't know how your credit works and how to manage it, then you could be up for a big surprise when your credit cards start shrinking your limits and shutting down. So that's what I'm saying. With your line of credit, they're usually tied to some type of collateral or asset, which makes them more stable so they don't fluctuate the terms as much on you.
Yeah, we really, we kind of rank them. So there's like good, better, and best.
Right.
So like credit cards, if that's what you have, good. If you don't have any, then we got to get you at least there. If you have a personal line of credit, a business line of credit where it's attached to a checking account, that's better. And then ultimately a HELOC or something like that, that's a much larger cash line of credit, that's even better.
That's the best.
That's the best.
Right.
Or a business hybrid account would be towards the best.
I like that too. All right, folks. So we have to start with the end in mind. So we were thinking about how much money do you need in retirement? Well, I'm going to approach this a completely different way, because that was what we were just looking at, the nest egg approach. You build up a nest egg. All right. That is one way to look at going into retirement. What I want to do is I want you to catch the goose that lays the golden eggs. Okay. Don't go for the golden egg, right? That's a trap. That's a long wait for a train that is not going to come in for many folks. But if you can go get the goose that lays golden eggs, now we're talking. So if we want to achieve financial freedom and we're thinking about the end in mind, folks, we're going to talk about credit banking, but again, we have to put everything in order. And when we start off each and every cycle of this, we want people to be thinking, why are we doing this? If we're just running around to get out of debt, but we don't know why we're doing this, Getting out of debt means you're in the negative, you're in the red. Getting out of debt means you go back to zero. But if you never learned what got you into debt in the first place, what's going to happen?
You're going to turn right back and go back down. But not all debt is created equally, and that's what's important to understand.
But if we have a plan, not just to get out of debt, but how we're going to create wealth, how we're going to create financial freedom, then this puts the whole strategy into perspective. So financial freedom happens when your passive income equals your monthly expenses. Now, passive income is a new term. Would you tell our folks what passive income is?
Passive income is really the after effects of work that you already put in. So this means that you made an investment, that you started a business, you did something that created an asset that now is going to pay you money. That's why we talk about real estate a lot of times, because there are many ways in real estate to do something one time that will continue to pay you for several years.
Good. So passive income, I'm getting money without having to actively work.
Yeah, actively going to work. You've put your resources, your time, and your money into something, and now that's going to start paying you a return.
Perfect. So we're going to put a little equation. It's a very simplistic equation, but a lot of people don't quantify what their goals are. And so it's hard to know if you've even achieved it. I mean, if we don't actually put the target out there and we're just shooting, we could hit anything. So here's how we hit our financial freedom goal. We take our monthly expenses and we subtract from that our passive income, and that should equal our financial freedom goal. So here's what I mean. Let's take an example. If you have $3,000 a month in monthly expenses and your current passive income is 0, then 3,000 minus 0 equals 3,000. So 3,000 becomes your financial freedom goal. So, I mean, it seems kind of obvious, like we're like kind of complicating how we're saying it, but follow me with this, because it's very important that we look at this. So how much money will we need to invest to create the passive income needed to reach your financial freedom goal? Now think about this. We need $3,000 a month, but we need to invest money. You were talking about creating something. So what would we need to do? So there's another equation here. We're building up to this. Financial freedom goal, which was 3,000 in the previous example. We take our financial freedom goal, we multiply it by 12, then divide that by our ROI. What's an ROI?
Return on investment.
Return on investment. And then that'll equal the total investment amount that we need. Now, an ROI, return on investment, that's a percentage, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm investing right now, my 401k is in the stock market with its volatility, I'm maybe right now at 1% ROI, my return on investment right now.
Right.
So, but I mean, what is the difference between getting in terms of risk, getting a 1% ROI versus getting, say, a 10% ROI?
Well, a 10% has a much greater risk.
Why is that?
Typically because the higher return directly correlates to the risk. It actually works the same way on the reverse side. If you're a higher risk lender, like let's say that the business you're in is a high risk or you have a bad credit score, you're going to pay a higher interest rate. So if you're investing into something, that has the potential of losing money, has the potential of going bankrupt in order to get a higher return.
So you're saying that then supposedly there are some investments that yield a lower return, like a savings account, a CD.
Right. Savings account is the safest
bonds,
because it's insured and that money's not going anywhere. So you're going to get a very, very, very small return. Then bonds. Bonds have actually a little bit of risk, but the risk is so low, that's why you're going to see a smaller percentage return. Now, if you're moving into mutual funds, the potential is higher, but then there's also the higher potential of loss.
And then there's people who invest they might want to invest in futures,
right,
which are really risky.
Right.
But there's great risk and reward. The higher risk, the higher the reward.
Exactly.
Okay. So, and so for some of you people, you're like, oh, guys, get on with it. We already understand that. I know. Please be patient. These early slides, we have to bring a lot of people up to speed who who aren't already with it like you are. So what we're going to do here is take a look at another example. Let's say that I have $3,000 as my financial freedom goal, multiply that by 12, and I want to divide that by 10%. And I'm using 10% because 10% is something that we have achieved many times and our investors have achieved many times through investing in real estate.
Right.
Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to put a number out there that is, yeah, it's pushing it a little bit, right? It's not like your 3, 4, 5, or 6% that you might see investing in stocks or safe or things like that. But getting yourself out there into a fix and flip, getting into investment properties, you can. I believe if you're educated, you could make 10% easy.
Yeah.
Now, if you take this example, 3,000 times 12, and then you divide that by 10%, you get $360,000. So what's that mean? It means if we had $360,000 out there invested, let's say, into properties that we're fix and flipping, and we're making at least 10% return on each of these investments, the money that we're making is enough to create that $3,000 a month that's needed for our financial freedom goal. And the reason why I broke it down like this is I showed you that chart earlier where you needed millions of dollars in the bank to have your nest egg, right? That you will begin to draw from, and you'll deplete that account over time. When you start investing in an asset, in this case, we're talking about real estate, and whether you're doing a fix and flip type of model and making money per flip, or you do go the long-term route and you have a rental property and the money's coming in that way, look at how much money you actually need to have deployed to meet your goal. Is that $3 million? Is that $1 million I see on this? Or is that only $360,000?
Yeah, especially in the rental model, there is, with $360,000, it would be very easy to achieve a 10% return on your money.
And so now it's not as scary. Retirement isn't as scary because I don't want to go after the nest egg approach, because that takes so much money. And then I have to live once I'm in retirement on a scarcity mentality. I only have this much money. If I pull out too much, there won't be enough there. I'm kind of scared. But here I can have an asset. If I had $360,000, I could be lending the money out. I could be invested in, I could diversify my portfolio. I could be in Bitcoin or precious metals and I could be in other things as long as I was knowledgeable, I was educated, and
Right.
knew what I was doing.
That's always the big thing. Invest in what you know. If you invest in things that you don't know and you don't understand, just be prepared and be okay if you lose it.
Right. Exactly. All right, folks. So now that we have the end in mind and we know what our goal is, now we can be in debt and now we can get out of debt, but now we know where we're headed after debt. And so we're going to use this strategy to propel us to get there. So what keeps us from financial freedom?
All of that out of control debt. We can't save if we have all these bills that we have to pay.
We talked about that, right? Like Indiana Jones running from all of the, imagine running from your creditors, right? You pay one, I came up with a financial strategy on my own. Like this credit banking strategy comes from Australia, but I invented the floating strategy.
The floating strategy?
Yeah.
Oh.
So here's how it works. I noticed when I missed my power bill one time that the power didn't get shut off right away.
Oh,
it actually stayed on for a whole another billing cycle.
That's right.
So then I thought, okay, I'll take the money that I didn't pay for that because I needed that for something like new tires on the car or something. So I'll float the power bill. Then when it came time to pay the bill the next month, I paid it. Then I didn't pay the cell phone bill that month and then caught up the power bill. But now I'm behind on the cell phone bill. And then so the next month, then I have to figure out something else not to pay because the power company warned me if I do that again, they're shutting me off. So then I'm like, oh, the cable bill, right? So then, I float that. And it worked sort of for about like 2 or 3 months. There. But here's what happened. I
didn't know you invented that. I didn't really enjoy that strategy.
Well, I never found a way to make it sustainable.
But that's true though. I mean, it's these are tough situations, running from all of the debt, because it just creeps up on us.
Absolutely. So what we need is we need a map. We need a map to help us find how to get there. We lost that financial freedom. We lost that dream. We listened to the banks, the corporations, and the government, and they sold us on the 40-40-40 plan to work 40 hours a week for 40 years of my life to eventually one day retire on 40% of what I lived off of my whole life. And that's just not going to work. So that we got sidetracked and lost. So now we need a map to help us find our way back. And so this is why we break up our training into pieces, because the map was broken into pieces. So when we break down the credit banking strategy, we must cover budget. Budget, the whole goal of this training is to learn how to find the fuel that we're going to need for this trip. We need fuel. Next week, when we talk about lines versus loans, we've got to find the right vehicle, right? Because we got our fuel, we got to then put our fuel into our vehicle that we're going to use to get to our destination, which is the promised land, the land of financial freedom. And then the last piece is when we actually implement and talk about the actual credit banking strategy. And the credit banking strategy works a lot like a GPS. You know, you use a GPS and it tells you how long it's going to take to get from where you are to where you need to be, and it gives you turn-by-turn directions. And then as you go, all of a sudden something happens, you make a wrong turn, or there's a detour, and then you recalculate, right?
Right.
But it gets you to where you need to go, and it helps you avoid like traffic jams, any type of road construction, things of that nature. So these are the three pieces that we break the map up into. And so today, what we're really going into is the budget. So let's talk about the budget. There are a lot of numbers out there. And if you've seen any type of trainings out there on credit banking strategy, it goes by other names. There's sweep strategy, there's cash flow banking, there's velocity banking. There's so many different other takes and twists and turns on this type of strategy, but they all have at their heart a credit banking component where you're going to bank through your credit. And so there's a lot of similar numbers that are used, and keep in mind that everything that we're showing you here comes from information that was taken from the Bureau of U.S. Labor and Statistics, but a lot of these numbers have been rounded, okay, just to make explanation purposes simple. So a two-income American family, an average two-income American family, after taxes brings in a net income of $5,000. So what happens? Well, it breaks down into the pie. So you've got to have some kind of mortgage payment. Not everybody lives owns their own house. So there's either a rent payment, right, or a mortgage payment. But now you immediately, if you have a mortgage, you're starting to use a bank product, a loan. So on your right side of your screen, you can see loans. And so this would be the average mortgage out there. Balance that's being carried right now is $200,000 at 6% interest, with the average payment being $1,200. Now, people will ask, well, is that just principal and interest, or does that include the mortgage insurance and the taxes? What we're going to say here for mathematical purposes, this is the principal and the interest, and we have another wedge that we'll talk about that incorporates all the other expenses. But right here, principal and interest, $200,000 at 6%. Okay, so that's where the first chunk of our money goes. But now we've got two-income family. That means we have two jobs, and that means we have two autos. Mm-hmm. So the average debt on an auto is about $13,000. So if we have two, we have $26,000. These are usually 5-year loans. Somebody traded usually a vehicle in and then got some money down. And so anyway, the average monthly payment is $300. So if you have two of those payments, we're saying that's $600. Are you picking up what I'm laying down?
Yep.
Making sense? Okay.
Yep.
So now the next area, so we got actually 3 loans already. And now we're looking at the next part of the budget. This would be our credit debt. Now, this number is actually going up. I actually have seen this number, and we'll need to update the slides once we get all of the information updated. But I've seen that the actual credit limits are around 20,000, with the balance actually being more around 15.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these numbers come from these are 2014 numbers that we really pulled all this from. But as the census gets updated, like this year,
Yeah, it's getting updated right now.
yeah, so we'll have good, fresh new numbers to work off of. But the average two-income American family has about a $15,000 credit limit, coming in the form of credit cards. We're talking about personal lines of credit, secured lines of credit. We're also talking about overdraft accounts. So $15,000 limit. However, they're carrying a $12,000 balance. This could be across maybe 3 credit cards. This could be a personal line of credit and a credit card. But the average interest rate across their lines of credit are about 21% interest. Now that number is still accurate today. 21% is still the average. And so I found that to be quite shocking.
It is shocking.
I mean, and even these numbers are a little bit low.
Well, we're flat out just not told how to handle it.
Absolutely. So this next area, this is what I call lifestyle. This is really the hard one to figure out. These are a lot of all your other expenses. Do you go to Starbucks and get yourself a decaf grande latte, supreme mocha with extra whip?
Mocha chocolate.
Yeah. I mean, do you have Netflix? I mean, do you have entertainment? Do you eat out? Or have you cut back? Are you on the beans and rice diet? Your power bill, your utility bills, all your insurance, everything that you pay would be in this wedge. Okay. So this is different because here's a 2-income American family, no kids. But would that wedge be totally different if they had 4 kids?
Yeah.
What
it would be.
What if mom and dad were still living with them?
That too.
Yeah. I mean, so everybody has a different, I mean, you could just be single, living in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. Everybody's budget is going to be different. And that's a good point to bring up, because your numbers might not match anything that you see on your screen. And that's okay, because the principles that we're going to talk about here actually will work with any budget.
Yeah, because you may not have a car, but you have a house. You may not have a house, but you got a car, you got some credit cards.
Or student loan.
Yeah, maybe you got a car and just student loans. I mean,
right.
It can work for whatever your situation is.
Now, this part is kind of confusing, because this is once you've budgeted for your expenses, your lifestyle, right, and you paid the house and car, now you come up with a savings plan. Well, these numbers were a bit confusing to me when I first got them, because the government was saying that people were putting away $1,400 into savings every month. And that's not true. I mean, where the money's going is into 401ks, IRAs, which the government in their model called that long-term savings.
Isn't that interesting? Long-term savings, that's what they see it as. Interesting.
Yes. But I mean, some people actually do put money into a savings account. And I should put quotations around that, savings account, right? Because why do banks call it a savings account?
They could call it whatever they want. They called it the Federal Reserve. I mean, but there's no actual reserve. They could call it whatever they want.
But they call it a savings account for a reason, though, right?
Well, exactly.
To give you a sense of feeling that you're saving. Right. You feel good. I'm doing right. But what is the account actually? Like, what is it? It actually has a name.
It's my lending pool.
Yes. Right. You have to have a certain pool of money set aside that you can lend from.
Right.
And so banks make money off of your money. I mean, in case you didn't know that, right? That's how it works. So you put money into your savings account, they pay you back 1%. Woohoo! Maybe.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what bank you're working at. That's pretty high return. 0.01%.
So you get back this little bit of money, but then does that keep up with inflation?
No, not at all.
So if I put $100 into my bank account last year this time, and inflation's at 3%, then my buying power is down to $97.
That's right, because right now we're averaging somewhere right around 3%.
Right. And so would you knowingly invest in something that loses you money right off the bat?
Not knowingly, no. I wouldn't.
But I mean, how many people, I mean, whether you knew about inflation and the 1% that the bank's paying you, how many people still do it anyway?
Oh, yes, yes. Well, I mean, it's one of those things is, and many times you just don't have a good alternative.
Well,
or that we don't know about a good alternative.
But I mean, think about it. It's even, I feel like, more insidious than this, because on the right side of your screen, you see there's a home mortgage and there's an auto loan, and you're paying 6%. Where did that come from?
That came from
the lending pool.
Yeah.
So you put money into a savings account, and other people put money into savings accounts or CDs or all these other bank products. And then when you go to buy something like a car or a house, you borrow your own money back at a higher interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, let me put it to you this way. I want to do business with you. If you like that model, I would love to do business with you. Invest your money with Joseph, and I'll give you a guaranteed 1% return on your money. And if you ever need to borrow more money, especially any of your money, back for any reason, I'll lend it to you at 6%. Anybody take me up on that offer?
But see, that's the crazy part. It's even worse than that, because they can literally create money.
Right. Fractional lending.
Right.
Right. I don't have to keep. It's not like you put money.
I only have to keep like 10% of that. And then
right. You put money back there. You think your money's back there in the vault. There's no money back there in the vault.
No.
It's all been lent out. So, folks, we're trying to get you to start trying to look more critically at how things are being managed. And we're camping out here for a point. Now, a lot of people, and this is a very contentious topic, and I kind of feel like a little tension kind of coming into this, but I want to talk about the 401k. Do you know there's so many people, they have to contribute to the 401k. They believe so much in the 401k because it's like, look, if I put in, my employer matches up to 3%, 4%, 6%, right? And so that's free money. Think about that. It's like, yeah, that's free money. But is it? It is, but is it? Look at people who lose everything in the stock market. If you put in $10 and your employee matched $10 and then your account lost everything, do you feel good that your employer had contributed $10?
Right. And I think
you end up with zero at the end.
And the other thing is too, what happens a lot of time is we don't look at the big picture, and we're just looking at this one particular investment, or we're just looking at our 401k, and we're separating everything out. Like these pieces of pie, we were taught to separate everything out. So we have our car loan over there, we have our 401k over here, we have our house over here, but actually it's the whole pie that we got to look at. We got to look at, well, are we trying to hold on to the 401k, but over here we're paying 10 times the amount in interest, and this thing's not even going to produce enough. And so we tend to not even look at what we're actually doing.
You're right. We looked at that chart of people that are putting money away, and you're putting money away into 401k, even with your employer match, it's not going to get you to where you need to be.
Right.
And so then it's a problem. You give it away. You give it away through fees. Yeah, that's right. Because the brokers, they make money every time that they do a transaction. Right? They always get paid. Oh, we moved your money again. They get paid. So there's no worry that, whether you give the money to the bank's going to make money off of your money. You give money to the 401k, it goes out to Wall Street. Well, they're going to make money off of your money. Doesn't really matter if you do make money. Maybe that would be nice if you did. But I guess what I'm saying is, because some people are like, that seems so irresponsible. You've got to have a plan. I do agree that you have to have a plan. And it's one of the reasons why we talked about creating your financial freedom goal and creating passive income and figuring all that out. However, if somebody wants to invest in the stock market, I have a good friend that's a day trader, and he does really well, but he got educated. He knows what he's doing. You met my friend Matt up in Spokane.
Right.
He's big into Bitcoin, but I mean, he knows what he's doing.
He understands it.
And so I'm not saying there's anything wrong with investing in the stock market or these things if you know what you're doing. What's irresponsible is to just let somebody deduct money out of every paycheck, and it goes through a wireless transfer, some magical land called New York City at the stock exchange, and you have no idea what you're invested in, what's happening, why things are being traded. I mean, that is not a wise position to be in, because, and here's the principle. Nobody cares more about your money than you do. I mean, you could have the greatest broker in the world, the nicest person, could be the next Mother Teresa, right? But they will still never care more about your retirement and your wealth creation than you will. And so I believe that you should, if you want to invest in the stock market, don't do it this way. Stop contributing to a 401k in this manner, pull the money out, get educated, learn how to do it, then create your own self-directed IRA that you then use, and you are your own broker, day trader, and then you make all your decisions and transactions, and you actualize more of your profits, right? If that's really the way you want to go, then I would say that would be a wiser way to do it.
Absolutely. And that's one of those things that just, and then if you're on the other side, well, like, I don't have time for that. Well, then pick some companies that you can invest in, because and then just invest in those, and at least you know what you're investing in.
Well, there's a lot of things that people can invest in. And one of the things that I always tell people is consider investing in real estate, because everybody already is investing in real estate, right? If you pay rent, you're investing in somebody's rental real estate, right? If you pay a mortgage payment, you're investing in your own real estate. You're building your own equity in your own property.
This is the easiest way. This is a little test that you can do to know if it's something good. Just think about banks. Banks have very, very low risk. They invest into sure things. Like, that's why it's
can you borrow money to invest in stock market?
No, that's exactly my point. Is if you go to the bank and ask for a loan for $100,000 to invest into Amazon, which is one of the
best companies,
out there, they're gonna laugh at you. But if you go and ask them for $100,000 to invest into the ugliest dilapidated property in the neighborhood, they'll give it to you all day long at the lowest interest rate. So think about that.
Exactly.
Real estate is the greatest investment, and it's proven itself time after time.
But again, you still need to get educated on what you're doing.
Right.
Whatever
because you can easily lose money in real estate.
Absolutely. There's risk involved in everything. And so when we're looking at your budget and we're looking at places where it's inefficient, putting money into a savings account, putting money into a 401k, when we see the real life results that people are not achieving their goals and they're ending up short and they have to work later in life than they plan to, or things happen, right? Life happens. The 401k is not the vehicle that people think it is, but so many people latch onto it because there's an employer match. I want to tell you what the employer match is. You know how to catch a monkey? Here's what they do in Africa, how they catch a monkey. They get a little hollowed out like coconut.
Okay.
All right. You hollow it out, but just like a little cone, just enough for the monkey to get its paw in. And you put a little piece of fruit in there, but then you tie the coconut down to a pole or a tree. And so the monkey comes by, smells the delicious fruit, reaches in, and then when they grab it, their fist now is too big to pull out of the little cone. And so the hunter, when he shows up, catches the monkey, but it's not because of anything the hunter is doing. The monkey will not let go of the fruit. So it's trying to get away, but it's stuck. So the hunter can then just put the net around the monkey and he's got it. So here's what I'm saying.
Is it bad that the whole time you're talking about, I was trying to figure out how to incorporate that into my life with my children? No, just kidding.
Your children are monkeys. But the point is people want to hold on to that little 3 or 6% employer match when the stock market has so much volatility to it, and it is so risky that they could match you 100% and you could still lose everything. And what did you gain? You need to be looking for ways to take here's what I'm saying. I said it before. You care more about your money than anybody else does. So you need to find ways to invest right now and how to improve your situation, your knowledge. And so I know we camped out here for a while, but it was really important because this is something that you need to see. So when we look at this full budget right here, you have $5,000 in, $5,000 out, and we have zero cash flow. But there is a way to create cash flow, but you've got to find places where there's inefficiencies. And so let's look at that. So here's what we're going to do. So we'll come back to that, but we got to look at the budget. So I actually have, if I can share this real quick, here we go. Now, hopefully that comes up on the screen and you can see this.
We are.
Hopefully you can see. Can everybody see this little spreadsheet that I just picked up? Can you get?
Yep, we got it.
All right. So this is just looking at that same budget. I just threw it into a spreadsheet here, but you got your income, right? Your mortgage, groceries, right? Gas, insurance, car payment, right? What do you do for entertainment? Right, we're looking at everything. You've got to actually, when you go to budget, you got to break it all down. You got to figure out, do you travel on vacations? Well, not a lot of people are traveling right now. But recreation, well, there isn't a lot of recreation going on right now. So hopefully some people are freeing up some money in their budget right now. Dues and subscriptions, personal clothing, and then any type of financial obligations that people have. But then when you look at this budget, you can see we got $5,000 in and $5,000 out. So not everybody, when they look at their budget, sees a pie chart like we just put up on the screen. This is really what your budget should look like as you start lining everything up. But this is where we want to help a lot of people find. We want to help you find space in your budget to actually find the cash flow, because these people, they don't have any cash flow. This 2-income American family doesn't have any cash flow. So let's go back now, and you should be able to see my PowerPoint again. So how do we create cash flow? If you're in this situation, if this is someone like you're living paycheck to paycheck, I don't have any budget surplus, I don't know what maybe you have budget deficit. That would be really bad. So how do we create monthly cash flow? Well, you can increase your income, you can decrease your expenses, or you could do both. Let's talk about that. How can we increase income? Well, let's look at a couple of ideas. What if you change the tax deductions on your W-4?
That's an easy one.
So a lot of people, when they initially signed up, they might have just selected one deduction.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean?
That you're paying pretty high.
Pretty high on my taxes. So
Yep.
If I go back, I could go and select 5, 6. I could select a whole bunch of deductions, so they actually pull zero money out if I
So yeah, in certain situations, and of course it just depends on your situation, but sometimes in the state there was a minimum you had to pay. Like in Arizona, it's pretty hard to get out of paying all the tax, but
well, I mean,
federal, you could be exempt.
Federal,
you could file exempt and then just paying at the end. That's always an option for federal because they tend to take out more.
And that can free up
a couple $100.
I've seen it free up as much as $600.
Yeah.
With some of our clients, and a lot of people don't think about that as an option, because some people are like, well, wait a minute, if I do that, I've been told by people that then I'll have to pay at the end of the year.
You will, potentially. Maybe.
Right. But then depending on how much you make and what tax bracket you're in, you need to look at it, consult with a professional, as we've already stated. But if you qualify for an earned income credit because you have kids, right, and you have a mortgage tax deduction, you've got all these deductions already, then yes, you'll still have to pay taxes, but you still might not only pay your taxes, but still have enough money left over and still get a return.
Yeah, it really goes along with a lot of what we're talking about. It's stepping over pennies to pick up dollars, where, well, I don't want to owe at the end of the year. But I got to just tell you folks, if you really want to get a hold of your finances, think about it this way. Think about, I don't know, whatever your favorite store is. Think about a retail store that you enjoy shopping at.
Cal Ranch.
Cal Ranch. Okay, so Cal Ranch, that's like cowboy stuff. It's
Power tools,
power tools,
lawnmowers.
lawnmowers. If you don't know what Cal Ranch is, okay. So any reputable business, they could not just say, oh well, I'll just let that money go out and then I hope I get it back later. If you really want to handle your personal finances, you're going to have to start realizing that you yourself are a business. Yes. And you need to treat your finances the same way a business would treat their finances. If you're terrible at bookkeeping, hire a bookkeeper. There's a whole lot of stay-at-home moms right now, stay-at-home dads even, that do bookkeeping, have access to Excel. If you have adult, maybe teenage children, teach them how to use Excel. Have them take a course. But
Amen.
you got to get a wrap of it like a business.
Absolutely. So changing your tax deductions on your W-4. That's always a good option. What about decrease your 401k and IRA contributions?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you are sending money literally to Wall Street so that they can the fat cats can become fatter, but you're not getting any benefit. You have a perceived future benefit, but you have to at least remember the crash in 2008. There was a crash back in 2001. There was a crash in 1999, right? The stock market crashed this year. So folks, depending on when you retire, what if you retire on the day the stock market crashes? Well, then what does it matter how much money you had in there? So I want you to be wise. If you have money in a 401k and an IRA, I'm not saying cash out or anything like that. I'm talking about just your contributions towards it. Let's recapture some of that money and help use that and help you in your situation. But if you have money in a 401k and an IRA, you can, as I talked about, self-direct those 401k and IRAs. And you can even have those self-directed accounts own businesses that then you can get checkbook control of your retirement money that you could then use to invest and grow your retirement. But there are a lot of rules. You got to know what you're doing, and you should hire an attorney to make sure that you're doing everything right. Because if you do a prohibited transaction, the IRS will come after you and they will eliminate the fund, penalize you, all that kind of stuff. So you definitely want to be educated and know what you're doing with that. But those who are educated, like we do this all the time with our clients, is help them self-direct their 401k and their IRA monies into rental real estate properties. So imagine a rent check getting paid every month to your 401k. And that's faster. That's going to grow faster than anything that's happening in the stock market.
Absolutely.
So what about work overtime or pick up a second job?
Yep.
I'd say that's a short-term game with a long-term.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these could be short-term too. Like, right now I'm contributing to it, but I'm working on the plan of how I'm not going to contribute to my IRA or I'm going to self-direct my 401k or, I got a savings account, but it's like I'm saving up money so I can open up my secured line of credit. So it's not like, it's more like that 2% of the time there's a reason to use it, most of the time not. So picking up a second job, it's a short-term solution, but it's not going to be something that you want to do for a long time because that can burn you out.
Right. And then you got to keep your life in balance. There's got to be time with the family and the kids and the spouse and the loved ones. Now
let's say you don't have, if you're just you by yourself, and then, you could work 2 jobs, even 3 jobs if you had nothing else to do. If you're just going to be sitting around watching TV anyway, then totally do it.
But if you're in a situation where, let's say your cash flow is 0 and you knew that if you picked up some overtime in the month, that could create an extra $500 of cash flow, and you have a debt that you could knock out in a short period of time, which would free up, say it's an auto loan, and it frees up $600 a month of payments. Right. Then you can stop the overtime, and now you're ahead by $100 in cash flow. So, Also, what about sell an asset to pay off a liability? Now, you're like, wait a minute, how does that have to do with increasing income? Because an asset is supposed to be making me income, and you're like getting rid of something. Well, Yes, because you end up ahead in this case. So you have an asset, it is bringing in income, but if we sell off an asset, and so that income goes down for us, but then at the same time, selling off that asset got rid of a liability that decreased our expenses more than we lost on the income side, we have a positive net gain of cash flow. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, we see that a lot. Let's say that somebody bought a mobile home as a rental. Those can tend to take a lot of maintenance. And so it's an asset in one aspect, but it's ending up costing them a lot to try to maintain and keep up. But where if they were to just turn it around and sell it, then there's a good chance they can make enough money to then start paying off some other stuff or buy a different property, different things like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. And then let's look at start a business. I mean, this is probably the number one strategy to increase your income. Starting a business gives you the ability to create multiple streams of income. There are so many businesses out there. We did a YouTube video last week on all the different ways to start a business. I mean, there's referral businesses, network marketing businesses. There's selling things on YouTube, or not selling things on YouTube, selling things on Amazon, right? I mean, there's whatever you're passionate about. But your business, once you get it up and running, and if you're able to build business credit, automate a lot of the systems and the marketing, you can have businesses where you literally, like, we have one business where we sell products on Amazon, and like we woke up this morning and we had 2 sales. We're like, that's great. I love making money in my sleep, right? So you can do this. I mean, this is something that sure, is that going to take a little bit of effort? Are you going to? And people are like, well, I don't know what business to start on. I'm not a salesperson. I can't do. Whatever you're passionate about can be converted into a business that creates multiple streams of income. And if you need more information on that, you need to contact us for sure. But how do we decrease expenses? Well, we need to look. I always start here. Look at automated payments for duplications.
You keep getting me.
How many times did something hit your account and you're like, what? And it sent, and you didn't know it was going to hit, and then all of a sudden now your account's in the negative and you're scrambling to put money in there so you don't get an NSF fee, right? And you're
it's
like,
oh, I knew I should have canceled that. All right, I guess I got another 30 days free. So I'll set my reminder and I'll cancel it next month. But many times, just go ahead and cancel it, and you're still going to have access until that period's over.
Yeah.
You know, if it's like Hulu or Netflix or something like that. To tell you the truth, I mean, just pick one at a time. There's plenty of stuff to watch on one, you know, instead of paying for all 3. That's a great way to do it. Perfect. YouTube. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Also, you could look for better payments and rates with creditors. Here's what I mean by that. Everybody has insurance. Everybody has a cell phone provider. Everybody has, I mean, maybe not everybody, but I mean, most people have, a cable or an internet provider. But here's the thing. If you go and you shop around and you're with one carrier and you want to go with a different carrier, you might find a better rate. In insurance, it happens all the time. But even if you didn't find a better rate, if you just tell the current people that you're with, your insurance provider, your cable provider, and you're telling them, look, I'm going to cancel my service, they have a retention department that's designed to give you a month for free or decrease your payments over this time or do something, and then you can get a better payment or a better rate with those creditors. And that, you know, if you took all your major bills and you did that once a month, that could free up $50 to $100 each time you did that.
Yep.
And so that's one way that people can decrease their expenses. It's a short-term gain, but again, if we're looking to knock out as much debt as we can and get as much cash flow as we can, we got to look at every possible option. Now, some people are overpaying for their cell phone bill, or they are overpaying for their insurance, and it would be wiser for them to go look for an actual better carrier. So if you can find a better rate or a better payment, you should do that. You can refinance inefficient debt. And people usually just say, oh, you could refinance debt. I put an inefficient in there because a lot of times the bank will call you up to refinance a debt, and your debt might actually be efficient, And the refinancing effort that you go through then makes it an inefficient debt. And what I mean by that is you have a certain amount of money that you owe, and you have a certain amount of money that's allocated with your budget that goes to servicing that debt. And so sometimes we're so focused on just the payment that we don't realize that we're going into greater debt over a longer period of time, and thus making our debt very inefficient. So we do want to refinance whenever we can make our debt more efficient. And that means sometimes if we can lengthen the term or we can lower the interest rate, right? It's usually a combination of the two, but most of the time what's offered is just a lowering of an interest rate, but you have to start your term over, right? What if you could keep your term where it's at and lower your interest rate? Well, now you're actually making your debt more efficient. So you got to look for some of those.
And something that's very important to understand on the refinancing of your debt, you can refinance your own debt. A lot of times that's what we're talking about in the a lot of times in the credit banking strategy is, if you have an inefficient debt, is there another tool or product that you could pay that off with and do some in-house refinancing? Don't necessarily leave it up to the bank to refinance your debt for you, because of course they're looking to make some money.
Absolutely. You can also, with some of your loans, you can negotiate forbearance or deferment on loans. I mean, people are in the middle of this COVID crisis. Well, there have been some forbearance. There have been some deferments that have happened because of that. And that's been very helpful. See, everybody who has a loan, there is always a section within your loan that covers, what if something through no fault of your own has caused you to, lose money or fall on hard times. Well, your creditors want to work with you in good faith to make sure that you can pay. But there's a lot of ways especially on student loans, to get deferment and forbearance over time. So many people feel like, oh, it's too complicated. There's too many forms to fill out. Do you want to make a $250 payment, or would you like that to be zero for the next 12 months? That would be really great, right? So always look at ways to negotiate forbearance and deferment on loans when you meet the qualifications stipulated in your loan documents. And then the greatest way to decrease expenses is to start a business. And you're like, wait a minute, Joseph, you just said that was the best way to increase income. And you're right, it is. It's also the best way to decrease expenses because of write-offs. See, we all have to pay for gas. We all have a cell phone bill. We all have maintenance on our vehicles. We have to pay for all these different things. But when we can legitimately take our expenses in our life and move it over to our business, and our business is making money, then we get to write those expenses off. And when we get taxed on our income, we get to deduct all of these things that we paid, which means we don't have to pay the tax that would normally come up, which means we keep more of what we make. The best way to illustrate that would be for me to say, well, how much do you make? Some people say, well, I make $80,000 a year, or I make $60,000 a year. Really? Is that how much money is in your bank account after the end of a 12-month period of time? Well, no, I got tax. Yeah, imagine if you said you made 60,000 and there was actually, you got 60,000 and kept 60,000. That's what write-offs do for you. You make money and you get to keep your money, right? So that is so critical, to be able to just take all of these expenses and turn your whole life into a write-off. We don't have enough time to go into that, but that is probably, that is probably, I keep saying probably, that has been the number one way that I have saved money in my life.
Starting a business.
I started a business. Yep. And like right from the jump, I got an $8,000 bill from the IRS the first year I went into business. And because of my write-offs, I was able to not only eliminate all that $8,000 bills, but I had enough in my write-offs where I was able to say, you actually owe me $2,000. That's a $10,000 swing in my favor.
Starting a business is that one aspect of building wealth that the wealthy understand. There's not a single wealthy person in this country that does not have a business, at least one business, to their name. It's just not possible.
That's right. So if we were to look at the budget that we were looking at a moment ago, what would we do here? Well, I'm going to give you a couple of strategies. We're not going to spend any more time really on this, but just showing you that there is some cash flow here to free up. What we would do is we'd take all of our income and put it onto our line of credit. And when we do that, we don't have to make the minimum monthly payment. That $600 payment that you see there on the credit cards, you don't have to make that payment because that was calculated on a minimum monthly payment of paying principal and interest. But when you put all $5,000 onto that balance, you're only paying an interest only payment, which is based off of the average daily balance. It's a complicated formula that we will go over next week, actually. But basically at 21% interest, you're going to pay roughly around 1.75% of the balance. And that's it. I mean, that's a very small amount. And so what does that mean? That means in essence, that $600 is going to flow pretty much to your bottom line, to your cash flow. Again, rounding for simplicity, but just by simply moving my money from, instead of going into the checking account, but I moved my money through my line of credit, I created $600 of cash flow because I don't have to budget for that minimum monthly payment anymore. And this is critical because a lot of people misunderstand this. They think you put the money over there, you still have to pay the $600. No, that's not actually how it works. When you overpay, then you're only charged the interest only payment,
right,
which is calculated differently. But we'll go over that next week. And then we talked about the 401k, the savings account. And for some of you that I've worked with, I know that this is a hard one to let go of. And, you know, I'm not saying you cut it cold turkey. I mean, if you need to make adjustments and plan for this, definitely want to plan for it. But if we can stop giving our money to people who are going to make money off of us and we get nothing in return, and we can start utilizing this to improve our financial situation, educate ourselves, we can come out of this whole situation, become debt-free, and have so much more cash flow that we will actually be ahead and start investing. And if you want to go back to the stock market with a ton more cash flow, then, and you're educated and you know what you're doing, then God bless you, go and do it that way. But you need to, for a period of time, look at, you're like, you've got a bucket, you're trying to carry water, and there's holes in your bucket, right? We need to fill these holes. We've got to take care of this right now. And so, but by doing that, we now can free up cash flow. And we freed up this cash flow in this example without having to get an extra job or work overtime. We just moved our money through a movement of money principle, which freed up the $600 of the minimum monthly payment. And then we stopped contributing to the 401k because that was inefficient. It's inefficient because of the track record that we see historically for people who it doesn't work for. Now, there's always exceptions. And I've had clients who are like, I'm getting a 12% return. Well, okay, you are the 1%, right? A lot of people are getting 1 to 3% return, and it's not working for them. It's not even keeping up with inflation. So again, these numbers are simplistic, but this is to show you, give you a flavor. Now you look in your life and your situation and your finances, there's ways where you can increase your income, decrease your expenses, but you want to apply some of the strategies we talked about and free up cash flow, because cash flow is the fuel that we're going to use to put into our vehicle, that we're going to then use the credit banking strategy to go to the land of financial freedom. And this is how we do it, folks. We take the budget and we take the lines and the loans, and we implement the credit banking strategy. We put this all together, and then we take off in our little airplane, right? And what we do is we are on our way to financial freedom. Right now, what we've done is we've freed up the cash flow. Next week, we're going to get the vehicle. And then the week after that, we will then be using the GPS to guide us safely and navigate right to the promised land.
Perfect.
I'm excited about this case study because you got somebody who's got about $500 a month of cash flow, right? That's a lot of people we've been able to work with can get about $500 of cash flow. But they're going to be there. They've got auto loans, they've got a home loan, a personal loan. And and they're going to be in debt for the next, I believe, 20 years. They got 20 years worth of debt. They got hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and we're going to get this done in under 10 years.
Beautiful.
But before we do, so this is for everybody who's here in the, who's actually here with us
On the Zoom call.
on the Zoom call in the webinar. For those of you who are with us on the YouTube, thank you so much. I don't know why I forgot YouTube. YouTube folks, we love you, but we want you to know that this is you got to join. You got to join the Zoom call.
Now, so if you're on YouTube, the way that you can join the Zoom call is in the description of this video on YouTube. There is, if you go down a little bit, it says there's a link there for the Wise Guys and Ties /events.
This is also going to be on the slide too.
Yeah, you can definitely get plugged in there. So where does credit banking fit into the entire equation of building wealth? Well, there's business, there's taxes, there's credit banking, there's real estate, and there's education.
These are 5 systems.
These are the 5 systems of building wealth. If you don't understand these systems, you will be taken advantage of. But if you understand how to play the game by the rules that they're playing, then you can start to really create some magic in your life. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about business. This is where it's really wrapping a business around the lifestyle that you want to have. You have the control. Also, if you're looking for the validation, the respect that maybe you're not receiving from where you're currently working, and the ability to increase your cash flow.
Show me the money.
You know, we're kind of leading up to this earlier. So who lives here? Is this a business owner or an employee? It's pretty self-explanatory that we all probably would say, yeah, some type of business owner, you know, and ponder on this. If you don't build your dreams, someone else will hire you to build theirs.
That's true.
That was depressing the first time I heard that. So building cash flow, because business is your greatest return on investment. So if we look at what cash flow is, if we have a business, that's profit, that's financing operations, that's income. That is the way to do it. Cash flow is the key, and that is the key to paying down debt. That's the key that you want in business and the key to success. Create a major asset through business creation, and also you can leverage. So if you think about hiring employees, you'd rather think about this. I'd rather have 1% of the efforts of 100 people or 100 men than 100% of my own efforts. It's the only way that you can get more done is by having other people help you along this journey. Creating a legacy for your family, because a lot of folks wonder about, hey, am I just going to leave a bunch of debt to my family? Am I going to leave these student loans that my family's going to have to worry about? No. How about leaving a real estate business? How about leaving a business that the grandkids could start working in? Something that you're leaving behind, or even just a charitable remainder. You know, we have a lot of partners who have, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars that they're going to leave to their church kind of situation. So being that change you want to see in the world. To find out more, go over to followustofreedom.info.
They can learn more about the Renatus.
If you want to write that down.
Yeah, take a screenshot. But the Renatus system, they can learn more about not only creating the business, but all those other 5 pillars that we were talking about.
Absolutely.
So now is when we're going to get to the case study. And this is exciting. So everybody here that's in the webinar, stay right where you're at. But for those of you who are on YouTube, if you want to join us, come on over to the webinar side. You just have to go to wiseguysandties.com/events. Register for the event, jump right on in, and you will be with and joining us on the case study. So I want to thank you, all of you on YouTube, for joining us this evening. On behalf of myself, Joseph Smith, and my business partner, Mr. Ray Fleming, I want to say good night and God bless.